Well, welcome to Deep Blu Perspective, this month's podcast from BluMine Health. We are talking today about real-world healthcare solutions that actually fit into your life. I'm Steve Church. I am one of the business development guys here at BluMine, and I'm joined by Julie Miller, who is many of you know and trust as one of the leaders in helping to bring BluMine and our model to employers in Kentucky, Indiana, and soon Tennessee, as well as West Virginia. So we've got locations in 4 states.
Yep, growing all the time.
It is amazing, and that is so much fun. Today, we are going to be talking about telehealth, which is quietly becoming one of the most important shifts in modern healthcare. And life doesn't stop just for doctor's appointments. And when things are going not so well, and you don't have the time or the bandwidth to get into the doctor, telehealth is a great option. So Julie, when we step back and look at how people have accessed healthcare over the years, we've come a long way.
We sure have. Telehealth has really changed the dynamic, and I think it's something that we really didn't pay that much attention to until we went through COVID.
Right.
And so as much as we hated having to go through that experience, it did teach us that we could get healthcare in a different way. And so now we've learned how to use it wisely and bundle it with in-person visits to keep that continuity of care.
You know, it's really interesting because COVID did shift the dynamic on so many things, right?
It sure did.
And to me, telehealth was always something that was talked about during our health plan renewals, right? But something I really didn't utilize at all.
Yeah. And you weren't the only one. Most people weren't.
Right.
And I don't think we knew how to use it properly, when to incorporate it into our care plan, and when it made sense and how we could really best use it.
Well, you know, we've got a couple of props sitting up here. I'm really more akin to this type of phone, and perhaps this type of phone, than this type of phone. We were talking before, you know, about the turn of the 19th century, you know, early 1900s, the horse was the preferred method of travel, and then Henry Ford invented the automobile. People thought that Henry Ford was crazy, that no one would ever buy that. And then in the late 60s, early 70s, we were putting people on the moon. So technology really has been a huge catalyst in our life in general, but now in healthcare as well.
Yeah, it sure is. Well, and here's another thing too. One thing I'm so proud of BluMine for doing is meeting people where they are. So as we talk about technological advances and how you can incorporate telehealth, we also make sure that it can be simply telephonic or video. So depending on where you are, whether it's still a flip phone, or you are with one of the smartphones, you can still take advantage of our telehealth opportunities.
So what I'm hearing you say is it's not just about access, it's also about engaging in the healthcare.
It absolutely is. You know, anytime we can find a way to engage our members and make sure that they are aware of the care that they can get, and if it can help us get in front of them sooner and more readily, then we want to do that too. So we're trying to incorporate telehealth as another option, another way to get in touch with members, to make it work into their busy life, dealing with kids and all the other responsibilities that we have, and fitting it into that lifestyle.
You know, one of the things that we have talked about in past podcasts is, you know, BluMine is really a tool to use for your overall health, and it's actually reshaping how people interact with healthcare and adding the telephonic component to the BluMine repertoire, if you will. Takes that one step further. How have you seen that enhance what BluMine offers to employers and employees in our areas that we have clinics?
You know, some of the things that we've heard from brokers is that they see that telehealth platforms are underutilized. One of the ways I think ours is more utilized is that you get to visit with the staff member, the practitioners that you've been doctoring with already. So it's not outsourced to a call center. You're still getting care from the practitioners that you've been working with. That's number one. Number two, you know, we're making it easy through our app and through other ways for for them to connect in that. And it also is infusing it. Example, we have a transportation company that we work with,
Right.
and you've got drivers that are on the road. They can't get in all the time during our hours of operation. And so if it gives them greater bandwidth to get care from us and continue what they've already been building on by coming in person, then that makes sense too.
Yeah, yeah. And, you know, because there's, you mentioned video, and then you mentioned just telephonic, you know, visits over the telephone with the practitioner that we have already seen. I'm a patient of BluMine as well. And so, you know, I had a great interaction last week with Lisa from our East End clinic. I just needed to call her and let her know that I needed to get a prescription refill. And during that conversation, she asked me a couple questions about what was going on, how things were going. And then she reminded me again the next time I was near, just to stop in, just for them to take my blood pressure and you know, just to have a chat, put eyes on me as a person.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And it wasn't a video telephonic visit. So I could have done it from that phone. I could have done it from that phone. I did it on this phone.
All right.
But it expands the options for people wherever they are. Again, meeting them where they are. All right, so let's make this more practical. You know me pretty well.
Yep, boil it down, right?
Right, boil it down. When is the best use for me to use telephonic? And I gave an example just a minute ago, but what are some other areas where we can do telephonic visits and save myself time and travel?
Yeah, so I like to think of it this way. If it's something you can visually assess, that's probably a decent use of telehealth.
Okay.
So thinking about colds, sinus infections, maybe a rash, a bug bite, a sore throat, if it's something that they can visually see and make a reasonable diagnosis, that's probably a pretty good use of that. If it's lab reviews, so maybe you've been in most cases, you're going to get your lab results while you're there, but some things need to be sent out.
Sure.
So unlike others, we won't make you come back in for another visit. So there's things like that if it's a visual symptom, I think it's better to do it that way.
Right.
There will be some other things that maybe don't fit as well. But here's the other thing. I always tell folks, you know, even as I'm answering questions like this, I don't have the MD and all those letters at the end of my name.
Nor do I.
Or the 8 or 10 years of education. So don't go to the internet. You know, we really don't want to all become internet doctors.
Right.
We want to make sure that we're coming back to the professionals. So even a telehealth visit with one of our professionals is better than searching on the web and trying to figure it out on your own.
Yeah, I'm a guy that usually goes from 0 to 1,000 miles per hour in my head. You know, it's like, you know, everything is terminal. No. You just, you know, you got some poison ivy. You know, you're going to be okay.
You're going to live through that.
You're going to live through that. Yeah, so it's an interesting mindset shift to stay away from the emergency room. You know, my health plan, I have $100 copay on the ER, right? So that's just my portion of that bill. Again, going back to a poison ivy experience, you know, or something like that, I could go to the ER and have a copay and then have a huge bill hit the health plan. I could go to the little clinic in Kroger, again, having a copay and a huge bill hitting the health plan. Or if you're a member of BluMine, it's part of the service, right? You can make a call, show the video on your phone. If there's a preponderance of evidence to our practitioner that this is what it is, then we e-prescribe. At that point, you go to the pharmacy and you pick it up.
That's right. Here's something else, though. You just mentioned what it costs if you go to an ER, and a lot of the telehealth programs that are in place through a health, you know, through your carrier plan at work and things like that, there's still going to be a copay. Our telehealth is zero copay. So just like
part of the subscription, right?
Right. Just like coming into our clinics that there's $0 out of pocket, same thing with our telehealth. It's going to be $0 out of pocket. So it's still a little financially more comfortable too to do it that way.
Yeah, and to my broker friends out there in the community, there is a telehealth component to most of the health plans that are offered, but Julie makes a very, very excellent point. Those are still associated with a cost share to the member and a cost to the health plan. And when we are talking about shaving dollars off of the from the employee and the employer, that's what BluMine
Every dollar
is,
counts.
and that's what BluMine is designed to do. Is to, $10 here, $100 there, over the course of a year, that adds up to real money.
It does, but saving dollars doesn't equate to sacrificing quality care.
Correct.
And that's the other thing, is because you're connecting with our practitioners, you are getting just as good, if not better care, because it's not outsourced. It's actually coming back to the practitioner you've been working with already.
Yeah, and we were also talking earlier about telehealth being an excellent way to triage what's going on. I think I shared with you that I had a niece that had an appendicitis.
Yeah.
Those are situations where if we got on the phone with a practitioner, they could direct us, they could quarterback us to the right way,
That's right.
So if I'm having abdominal pain, I need for a physician or a nurse practitioner to actually put their hands
To be able to examine.
to be able to examine, right? So how does all that fit in, from a...
Yeah, so again, I feel like I have to say I'm not a doctor and I
Right.
don't play one on TV,
Right,
right?
right.
But if you think about a rule of thumb, if you can see it and diagnose that way, it's a good telehealth visit. But things like chest pain, shortness of breath, other things like that maybe you can't truly see, that's probably better to get in-person care instead. So we do want to make sure, strains and sprains, we can probably do something with that, maybe telephonically too. But if it's a more serious injury, you really do need to seek in-person care for that. And obviously, if it's severe symptoms presenting, then you may want to consider the emergency room in that case.
Exactly. Yeah, we want to be clear that we're not saying that we should telehealth is instead of, this is as well as.
Yes,
Right.
it is a great enhancement and an additional method to get in front of care, but certainly doesn't take the place of in-person.
Yeah. And again, because we use our own practitioners, there are nurse lines out there, according to some of the health plans. But you are going to get a nurse from a call center who does not know you from anybody else on the planet, and there's going to be a lot of questions and a lot of time that's spent getting them up to speed on what other things are going on in your life.
Yeah.
If you're a BluMine patient, we've got all that right in your medical record right there, so we know what the other things are that are going on, and we can take that into account.
And that goes back to the strength of our network too.
Right.
Having all the care centers available and all of them connected, if it's a telehealth visit and you want to do that later in the day and the care center that you normally go to maybe closed at 4:30, you can go to another one that's at 7. So that, because of that network, extends the hours of availability for our members.
Right.
And that makes a difference too.
Well, and when you talk about a mindset shift, right? This is, you're not making the decision between urgent care versus ER, or specialist versus primary care, or even waiting versus acting. You're actually going to be able to talk to someone who will guide you into making those decisions, because quite frankly, sometimes I just don't want to make a decision.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, here's another thing too. You just mentioned not putting off care, and
Yeah.
that's an important piece too. We have a lot of folks that because it's inconvenient or because they can't get into a care center, whether it be ours or any place else, they'll put off care, and then maybe something that's small develops into something bigger because it's left untreated. UTIs and things like that oftentimes can fall into that category. So as we're thinking about getting care faster and more efficiently, that's another area where telehealth really shines.
So let's go in another direction. Let me be the contrarian.
Okay.
Right? Right. When should someone absolutely not use telehealth? I know we've talked a little bit about it. We've danced around it a little
Yeah.
bit, but
If it feels like it's something more serious or more urgent, and by serious or urgent, again, I go back to things like shortness of breath, chest pains, and shortness of breath doesn't always mean that it's heart condition and things like that. Maybe it's an asthma attack. If it's mild symptoms, maybe we can take care of that. But if it is something that feels more aggressive or more urgent, get care and get in-person care as quickly as you can. So it isn't the best fit there. Also, you mentioned your niece with appendicitis, so if it's something that feels deeper that way too, more internal, I think that's a better time when you need to see a physician in person.
Yeah, when you can't keep food down, when you can't,
Right.
your pain is so much that you can't sleep, stuff like that,
Yeah.
right?
Then you need in-person care instead.
Right. When we talk about costs, I know that you and I spend a lot of time not talking about cost because cost isn't the thing, right?
Right.
We're here to, BluMine exists. There is a cost savings component to it, but it's really about quality of care, it's about quality of life.
It is.
And so, tell me a little bit about your perspective on how telehealth with BluMine improves the quality of someone's life.
We've talked a little bit about it being access to care and things like that, but if you can get care quicker, an ROI or savings isn't always about dollars. Sometimes it's about time savings.
Right. Right.
I know that my kids and grandkids are running in 1,000 different directions all the time, and so being able to take advantage of something like this has a lot of value because it restores time to their day and family time and things like that. So if we can restore time and promote better health because they got care sooner, sometimes that's even more valuable than putting a few dollars back in your wallet.
Yeah, and if you've been through an ROI calculation with Julie or myself, we do have a component for productivity and loss of productivity. And when you think about going to a brick and mortar building, you have the time of taking off work, getting over there, and then getting back, and then the time spent with the provider.
Yeah.
And on some of these less urgent situations, picking up the telephone even saves you the time and the gas money to get over there. I mean, gas right now is pretty expensive.
Right.
I mean,
We're all feeling that.
We are really all feeling that, right? But it's just another stressor or another thing. And now that triggered another thing in my mind, stressor. We can do some basic mental health questions over a telehealth visit.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And when I was talking to Lisa, hey, how are you doing? How are you feeling? What's going good in your life? What's going right? What's not going right? Those questions when you do a telehealth, it's not just about it wasn't about my prescription.
Yeah.
It was about, hey, how's Steve doing? I can't tell you how important that is to have that personal relationship with a provider that knows you.
And how long you were on the phone with her for maybe 10 or 15 minutes?
It wasn't even that.
Yeah.
It was probably 7 or 8 minutes,
Yeah.
right? And because I like talking to her, right?
Sure.
It probably could have been a 3-minute conversation, actually. But that wasn't what she was about. She wasn't rushing me through.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, I got to get this because I got to do this, right? No, it was good to hear from you. How are you doing? How's your day? How's spring? How's your seasonal allergies? Because I sneezed 100 times coming down here today. Which, by the way, we are in Bardstown at the Polytechnical Institute. Again, we have Mr. Gordon's fantastic students that are producing and taping our podcast every week, which has really greatly increased the quality of what we did. Right?
Definitely.
We're getting such great comments because of what these great students have done for the production level of our podcast. So we're very thankful for that as well. So what else are we using from a technology standpoint that kind of goes hand in hand with the telehealth?
Any of the visits that we have, that's going to be charted, and again, it continues care with the providers that you have already. So that's key, just that continuity of care and things that we have put in place. And to your point, you mentioned that when you had the visit with Lisa, she was already aware of allergy things and so forth that you had. So it isn't just a quick, let's fix whatever's happening right now and then move on. We're digging back into other things that we've seen in your health history. So it's a continuation of that, just a check-in, right? So maybe you've been in for visits and you're just popping in to get a blood pressure check because you've been on that. Maybe you're just popping in for a quick weigh-in because you're part of our weight management program. And so we're, again, coupling all those different tools and resources to make them work well together to get you to the right outcome.
And every month we talk about what our outreach is to our patient population, right? And so this month you will be receiving some text messages and some reminders about telehealth and the availability of telehealth through BluMine.
Right.
And so what are some of the other areas that we are going to be talking to our patient population through via text? I mean, what's coming up? I mean, this month is telehealth. Then we've got your birthday. Your birthday month, right?
Yep.
What is that?
My birthday's right around the corner, don't you?
I'm going to have to start shopping.
But we want to make sure that we are reaching out to people now that spring is here. They've been thinking about coming in because of kiddos' sports physicals.
Yes.
So we're going to have messaging coming out to remind them about sports physicals this summer, birthdays, and other annual checkups and things like that. The things that they need to do before it becomes a problem, we're really focusing on prevention right now, to make sure that they're thinking about doing those things too.
When you get proactive about your health, it's not just 1 + 1 = 2. It's actually 1 + 1 = 3. Because what I have found since I've been more attentive, because I'm getting these reminders.
Attentive, I like that. We're going to remember that one.
is I'm not really dreading some of the things that I was dreading, going into spring as an example. It's there's going to be a lot of time outside. We love boating, we love golfing, we love all those active sport type things that we do. And I feel like that at any given time, if something goes wrong, I can just pick up the phone, call Lisa and say, hey, I did this. What do you think? Should I come see you? Should I do this? Should I do that? It gives me an extra sense of, just having somebody in my corner rather than just relying on, putting it out there again. Hey, what's the best on Facebook? What's the best? Who's the best cardiologist?
You're going to be banned from MD on the internet.
I might, because again, I go to 0, to 1,000 miles per hour. So
another thing that you mentioned just now, though, was the ease of access and building habits. Here's something else. BluMine loves what we're doing for our employers and their families and everything else right now, but we also have a bigger vision of what we can do for the community. And because we take care of the whole family and the ease of access, and it's a pleasant experience, as those kiddos are coming in and the doctor isn't a place to be afraid to go, perhaps we're building good habits with them to go for preventative care when they're young, so that they don't end up like some of us with aches, pains, and other things that we didn't take care of when we were younger. So if this also creates a positive family experience when they're coming in for preventative care and becomes something that they instill as they get older, just think about the changes we can make in the future in healthcare and in the Kentucky population overall as a result of doing things like this.
It's so true. When I was growing up, I always equated going to the doctor as a negative experience. Right. And as I've gotten older, the first time I went and saw Lisa, they took my blood pressure. And I warned them, I've got this little bit of a white coat syndrome, right?
See?
And so I had anxiety going in, right? And they have since taken a lot of that anxiety off the plate just by knowing me, knowing my family, getting to treat me as a person, right? Not as a patient, not as a 7-minute time block.
Right.
Because
that's not a relationship.
It's not a relationship. A 7-minute time block is making the financials work. A 30-minute conversation with one of the BluMine practitioners is developing a relationship.
It is.
And it's transformational. Okay, wrapping this up. We've circled the barn a couple times.
We have.
But that's all right.
This is great. This is important.
What, if you had one takeaway that you want to leave our massive BluMine podcast audience with? All 17 of them.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. All thousands of them. What would it be?
Don't be afraid of making that call to connect with BluMine. You know, we've mentioned that we really hope that we get to see you in person the first time, but we know that sometimes when you need us, you haven't been in yet, and you've thought about BluMine, pick up the phone, call us. Let us take care of you. Let us provide that entry to care. We'll get you in to see us after that, but experience us. Take a chance on trying BluMine. I think you'll be pleased if you do, and you'll see that it is a very different experience than going somewhere else, and that we truly do care. And you know, I always say this: we see healthcare differently, and we just want folks to give us an opportunity to show them that.
Yeah, and the whole model is set up so that healthcare is not something that you have to fit into your life. We are trying to change that dynamic. We do not want healthcare to be a disruption in your life. We want that to be an enhancement of your life, right?
Absolutely.
And so we do that because if it's easy to access in several formats, right? The people will use it sooner, and we know that early detection is the key to early intervention, and intervention leads to remission in a lot of cases. And remission is a word we use a lot associated with cancer, but it also early intervention in many things leads to better outcomes for health.
It does.
Across the board, right? Problems get solved earlier, outcomes improve. And in my case, again, the white coat syndrome kid, your stress goes down. You know, I know that I have a healthcare advocate in my corner that's going to take care of that stuff. So that's what it's all about. So Julie, as always, it's great to be with you. Thank you for letting me carry this 30-pound phone as a prop. It's an awesome prop. It just shows how far we've come, right?
That's right.
I mean, it's just fantastic. Thank you all for joining us in this month's Deep Blue Perspective. Watch for our texts. We will be talking about some of the things we mentioned earlier. You know, if it's your birthday month, you're probably going to get a reminder to come in for your annual visit. If it's not, then you're going to talk about telehealth. We want to make sure we meet you where you are. If you're one of our broker friends, we want to make sure that you understand that this is not just strictly a financial play. This is a culture shift for employers and employees to take back control over something that actually we have lost a little bit of control over, and that's the healthcare system. We do not need to be victims of what's going on around us. We can be advocates for our own health through membership in BluMine type primary care, because when we are the front door to healthcare and we can quarterback every step of the way, your outcomes will be better and your stress and your anxiety will be lessened. I can tell you that from personal experience. As we wrap up, Julie, any closing comments that you want to tell our audience?
I think the biggest thing is give us a call.
Give us a call. We'd be more than happy to come out, see what you're all about, and see if we are a good fit for your culture and your company. Thank you so much for watching, and look for us next month. And our topic next month is going to be, do we know?
It's a mystery.
It's a mystery?
We are not sharing yet. We're keeping that one under wraps.
You know what? I think I know what it is. That's right. We're going to make sure that so you won't want to miss next month.
Yes.
You probably didn't want to miss last month. Obviously, you're here today. So,
all right.
For Steve Church, I'm Steve Church for Julie Miller. This has been Deep Blue Perspective. We'll see you next month.
Thank you.